another match I watched since I was torturing myself, and actually this one came out pretty good, where I didn't consider it a waste of my life. But I watched another match finally. I've had it taped since it aired a couple weeks ago on Access. And I said, all right, I'll record it. And finally,
no way,
I was able to get in a good enough mood to watch.
No, don't say it.
Yes, I did. Jericho Omega from the Tokyo Dome.
Get the fuck out of here. I didn't even bother asking you to do that because I didn't think there was any chance in hell you would ever agree to this. I'm stunned right now that you did this.
But now here's the thing. I don't know whether it's good or not, because there were good things and bad things, but I actually wish I could say better thing. No. Here's the deal with me. And first of all, Jericho did a wonderful job. And besides the fact, everything, because I have watched the build up and the press conferences and stuff, and then the packages they did on Access, the show. The point is, Jericho seemed legitimate in everything he did, and all of his reactions seemed genuine. All of his statements seemed like he meant them. He's crazy and fucking batshit, but in a controlled enough way that you think that he might really be crazy and batshit. He not only that, but I didn't make any notes on this match. I just watched the fucking thing, but I got a few comments. You could tell he was leading Omega through the whole thing. You could tell that he was slowing him down a couple times, or he was getting him to come to him a couple times, or he was, and Jericho is a fucking genius at putting matches together and doing that shit and being the person he is supposed to be. And I was disappointed that then after all that, they got on the fucking podcast and told everybody how they did it. I don't know what that's all about. But anyway, but here's the thing, folks, we need to come down off this hysteria. This was not, and once again, I'm a fan of Chris Jericho's, but this was not the greatest match of all time. I don't know what people are seeing. I'm going to try to tell you what I see, and then maybe, Brian, you can tell me what the fuck anybody else is seeing. Besides Jericho's great work in every way, and I don't mean to be pissy over this fucking Omega guy. I don't know who broke him in. I wish somebody had taught him some respect for the business, or maybe they tried and he just couldn't learn it. But I would have a better opinion of him than I do, obviously, if he had been taught some respect for the business and didn't have the fucking blow up doll match and the 9-year-old girl match. Now he's probably done the Invisible Man or wherever the fuck, just all this horse shit. But I first saw him before all of that. Before I knew any of that, I saw him in, 2007, 2008 in Ring of Honor. And they said, oh, you got to see this kid. He's going to be great. He's already going to Japan a lot. I didn't know he was going over there to wrestle grade school children. But I saw him first standing there, good size, good looking athlete, good body. I thought the fucking hair, Shirley Temple hair's always been out of control, but you could fix that. It just looked goofy. But I thought, okay, I'll watch this guy. And what struck me the most was, besides the fact that at the time his basics were horrible, just in his footwork and stance in the ring and the way he would apply things. And I don't know really, besides shooting people off, if his basics have improved, because I don't know they use that many holds, maybe a couple of submission holds. But his facial expressions, along with the silly hair puffing his cheeks out, and he bobbed his head up and down a lot, it reminded me of the Ultimate Warrior. And that is not someone that I'd want to be reminded of when I'm looking at a prospective professional wrestler, would be the Ultimate Warrior in probably any way, shape, or form. And I kind of thought he's green and, and he looks a little Ultimate Warrior-ish. That was my opinion of him. I didn't hate the fucking guy. And then we've told the story. He was booked, I think, on Final Battle 2009 or whatever, but he sent Delirious, or was it Adam Pearce was still booking it? Adam Pearce was booking it. He sent Adam Pearce a picture of like a gangrened, diseased foot on the internet and said, hey, I've blown my ankle or whatever and I can't make it. And we're both like, is this fucking guy's foot for what this looks horrible. What's going on here? And then we heard he was in Japan. And then now the story has been he was just accepting an award. He really was hurt, but he admitted that he sent a picture of a horrible looking foot as a rib. Like like that's all this business is actually to a lot of these guys, is just to fucking rib each other. We're all one of the boys. We just rib each other. He's talking about no showing a fucking the biggest pay-per-view of the year. And he's sending fake pictures. and he wonders why people misconstrue his fucking intentions. Anyway, and until I found out about the doll wrestling and the fucking all the rest of it, that's all I knew about this guy. But on this examination, I still don't get it. His facial expressions are somewhat goofy. The hair, I don't know what the fuck's going on with that hairdo, but he looks like it doesn't even do it to get heat like when Jericho would have his shit up like a cockatoo. He just looks like a goof. I think he has bad body language and a stagey way of staggering sometimes. He throws horrible punches. He doesn't throw a punch. He throws a sidearm swing or those little flipper forearms that look like they make no contact. Here's a guy that can dive 25 feet over the top rope and break a table, but he can't throw a fucking punch. I don't believe his whiny voice and the fact that he was trying to be overly dramatic in the after-match promo when Jericho made a statement to the press that you could fucking believe, saying that he was the greatest and blah, 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 and this and that and the other thing. And then Omega comes out and tries to use a bunch of big words and be dramatic, and it took it back into work. And then the only really silly, stupid thing in the match, which I just hated, because they're doing this well. And Omega, he doesn't suck. He is nowhere near the greatest wrestler in the world, but he doesn't suck. He just sucks as a human being for what he's done, but he doesn't suck as a fucking wrestler, but he's not the greatest either. Anyway, remember the spot where he fucking gets the cold aerosol cold spray?
I hate it.
And sprays Jericho in the face, and then revives himself by spraying himself and pulling out his tights and spraying himself in the crotch and making a funny face. Because that's exactly what Kenny Omega and the rest of his contemporaries that do all this stuff and have done all this stuff are. Is they're guys that play a lot of video games and they also play at being a wrestler. They are not wrestlers. They're playing wrestlers. They're not wrestling. They're playing wrestling. They're not in wrestling because they're fans of the concept of it. They're in wrestling because they're fans of the performance. And whether it's being silly and stupid for a small niche group of people, or just because they can't help themselves looking stagey and phony and contrived and having no real emotion to them. I'm sorry. It was great because of Jericho, but put that match up against Jerry Lawler against Dutch Mantell in a fucking cage in the Mid-South Coliseum, or any of the Flair Steamboat trilogies, or any other Flair Steamboat match for that matter, or a goddamn really top main event WWF pay-per-view match from the late 90s involving the Austins and Harts and Michaels of the world, or anything. It doesn't hold up. I thought they went a little long because they had so much of it was laying around, because you can't just go out there, especially in a building that big. The atmosphere is challenging, and you can't just go out there and go full speed for 30 fucking minutes, but they have to go 30 minutes or people don't think it's fucking classic, which is what we were talking about a minute ago. So it was slow paced, even though it was built well. They could have gone a little quicker and, a little less time, but I'm not going to double guess or second guess Jericho, but I'm just not seeing what it is about this fucking Omega guy. Are you?
Well, I'll say a few things. First, I want to say one thing. I've been very critical.
Not that he should be crucified, but that he's the greatest wrestler in the world when AJ Styles is around.
I think he's really good. I think he's excellent in the ring. I agree with you. He's way too stagey. I don't like that. And I have to accept that there is a fan base in Japan and a fan base in various parts of America too that actually do enjoy that. So, you know what? If that's what they enjoy, that's what they're getting. I don't like the staginess. I'm not a fan of his promos. But in the ring, I think he's really good. But then he has a tendency to do things I don't like. I guess stagey is just the word. There's too much. I think
part of it for me is the way he moves, the body language. Like I said, the throwing the punch way around to the right hand side and the kind of Calgary hop with it, because it ain't no Bobby Eaton punch. But just some of his body language, it doesn't. You would expect for the greatest wrestler in the world the smoothness of a Steamboat or the gracefulness of an Armstrong, not the herky-jerkiness of an Omega. I don't know.
And then with Jericho, I've been very critical here on this show, Jim, about Jericho's work the last few years. I wasn't a fan of his in-ring work, and I thought at times his promos and his character were weak, although his character certainly picked up, although a little too silly for me. Towards the end of the WWE run, certainly a lot of people liked it. I thought this was the best I've seen Jericho in a long time in the ring, and also just everything around the match.
Yeah, well, because
and I want to say that just because I've been critical of him, so I should also say when I think he was really good in something, I thought Jericho, this is the best I've seen Jericho in a long time.
Well, thank you very much for saying that. I was good because even though Chris, I'm sure gets a lot of leeway in what he does in the WWE, he still got. No, I'm talking about he gets a lot of leeway from the creative team in what he's going to do or say or whatever. I'm sure, but at the same time, he still has other people, contributing to his stew. If he's the only chef, and I'm sure he was here, he was great. It was fantastic and believable, and it was still entertaining, but yet you could still believe that he was being somewhat legitimate about everything.
Now, him having Omega on his podcast right away afterwards so they could have a friendly chat about...
I don't know what I've heard.
That's fucking dumb as shit.
Immediately afterwards, I was like, what the fuck? It's like robbing a bank and getting away with it and then bringing the money back.
Do you need downloads that weak that badly? Come on.
Well, it says I don't understand that at all, but I'm trying to stick to the match that I watched. But anyway, I watched it.
We didn't even have Austin Idol on the week after that West Virginia show for you guys to go, hey, we're friends. Like we didn't even do that.
Because we ain't friends. Fuck the cheap bastard. But anyway,
continues. Okay.
But anyway, no, and once again, Cornette's going to say, or they're going to say, oh, Cornette, the first match he mentioned was a Jerry Lawler match. Did you
like it better than the Gargano match? Which match did you like better of the two?
Oh, Gargano.
Okay.
Gargano and Almas. Yeah. Because both those guys, besides the fact they don't have a track record with me also, previously also, but both those guys, I didn't see any mistakes. I didn't see any silliness. I thought they're both way smoother than Omega, be quite honest with you. But that's just my critical eye looking at things that maybe nobody looks at anymore. But you used to be able to do that. You used to be able to just put a guy in the ring and have him hit the ropes 3 or 4 times and tell whether he could work. And I probably still can. You know what it is? The fucking junior heavyweights took over the world. That's what every main event of every show is, junior heavyweight. And I was as big a fan of them as anyone. I was trading tapes, like I said, but just every match is a junior heavyweight match. I mean, it's just, after a while, I want to see something different. Well, exactly, because that's the thing and Vince is a land of extremes. When everybody, even in the old days, when everybody was a giant, Hulk and Andre and Bundy and whatever the fuck, then there was no action. Now, all there is action from guys who look like they, weigh 170 pounds in some cases, and nobody's intimidated by them. You can have wrestlers of every size and shape on the card, but I need to see some tag team matches. I want to see a goddamn big giant fucking monster. I want to see a technical wrestlers. I want to see a little bit of everything. And just everybody taking it seriously in their own way, but every match does not have to go 30-plus minutes, does not have to contain 87,000 false finishes, and does not have to be contested by 2 guys under 200 pounds. And it's not knocking the junior. And yes, Conor McGregor, point taken. However, I ain't seen Conor McGregor on their fucking roster. And the guys need to realize you need to vary your shit up. I'm glad that most of those guys on any of the rosters didn't have to work the same town every week, 5 times a week, because a lot of them do the same shit, the same counters. They're in the same gene pool. They're learning from the same people. Just go out and have a goddamn fight, or just do something different. And I think that's why I like the Revival so much, because they stand out so much, because they're technically almost perfect, yet they're doing a style that is both the style that actually that's what wrestling is, and secondly, nobody does it anymore, so it looks even better by comparison. There's the only cooperation you sense is between the partners. So Yeah, anyway, that if there's a moral to the story, guys, go out and mix your shit up a little bit.